here. Question of the day, very important one, as they all are, of course. What are you doing next week? Hosting, traveling, or other? I cannot wait to hear what the others are. Drop your answers in the chat. Sheila is hosting. Why does that not surprise me? I'll bet you've got a very tight-knit family, Sheila.
And
I'll bet you're cooking something fierce. What are you cooking? What are you making? What's the signature dish, like non-turkey dish? Unless your turkey is just like right home about this good.
Pineapple casserole.
Apple casserole.
Pineapple.
All right, tell me more.
Pineapple casserole.
Oh, pineapple casserole. Okay, yes. Now I want to know even more.
It's crushed pineapples, cheese. Of course, you can't have a casserole without the cheese.
Right, that's
it's really very simple. Flour, sugar, crushed pineapple, cheese, and Ritz crackers, and of course butter.
Well, yeah.
So it's like the most simple thing, but it gets requested by everybody in the family.
So casserole. So is it like layered? Do you have like a cheese layer, dough layer, then another dough kind of thing?
No, you throw your crushed pineapple in a baking dish, and then you add a tablespoon of sugar, and I think it's like 3 tablespoons of flour. I'd have to look back, and you put that on top of it, and then put your cheese and your Ritz crackers and pour over melted butter and bake it until it gets very thick, and it'll slice just like a casserole. That and a good broccoli casserole, and that makes our family happy.
All right.
With the traditional turkey and dressing.
Rock on. Rock on. Now, with your dressing, do you make like cornbread and sausage? Or is it like...
No, it's cornbread and turkey, and I'll make it there again with pieces of meat and things in it, but it's a very wet, moist cornbread from scratch dressing.
Are you... You're making a turkey to put in the stuffing or the dressing to go with the turkey. So you're seriously serving turkey with a side of turkey next Thursday?
Well, turkey with a side of dressing with giblets and turkey pieces.
Got it. Okay. All right. Got it. Okay, cool. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Steve Grand, you're scavenging the neighborhood for leftovers. Tell me more. Oh, you're muted.
So, yeah, mainly family houses, parents' houses, brother, sister, their family,
Okay, who's got the...
Why cook when you can go find your own?
Oh, for sure. Except when you really enjoy cooking. But like, what?
It's true. I did that enough.
You've got a map. You've got a strategy. You're going to one house before you go to another. That's for certain. How do you plan your route? Okay. So it's not consistent. You don't have the strategy yet.
It's not consistent.
Got it.
All depend on eating times. We hadn't really set that out yet. Got about 3 places to visit. So better bring Tupperware where I go.
You gonna eat
the whole weekend? Whole weekend's taking. Maybe not there.
That's awesome. You're gonna see a slide in a little bit. I'll just hold my comments for that. Stephanie, Patrick, you're both hosting. What's special about your Thanksgiving table?
Nothing special, man. Bob Evans ordering in.
Rock on. There is a place. There is a place here. They do roasted fried chicken, right? So fried in a pressure cooker, and they've got a Thanksgiving dinner package where they'll actually do a fried turkey. And I looked at my son when we went there for dinner, just a couple of months ago, and I was like, I love to cook. I don't think I'm cooking on Thursday. I think my wife is cooking Thursday. I'm doing a lot of cooking tomorrow because I've been doing Friendsgiving since 1999, when a bunch of us sat on the floor eating off of paper plates with a keg in the bathtub, because that's what you do in college. And somehow that tradition has kept going for the last, whatever, 20, I guess this is it'll be 25 years. This is the 26th edition, something. So it's really cool. It's one of the best days of my year. It's certainly, I think, my favorite cook of the year. And so I've got 2 turkeys. I'm going to spatchcock them both for speed. I am going to put one in the oven and kind of do it more traditionally. And then I'm going to put one on my big green egg for a couple hours. And that one tends to, well, there's some people that like one and there's some people that like the other. So I've got to do 2. But there are more people going to be crammed into my little house than the fire marshal should know about. So I'll just keep that under my hat. All right. Before we move on to today, we got big stuff to talk about today. And actually, Stephanie, I didn't get a chance to hear from you. I don't want to take the microphone out of your hand. Stephanie, you're cooking this weekend?
Yeah, I think Stephanie's having microphone issues.
Okay. All right. Note to self, don't call on Stephanie.
She's trying.
We'll save yours for the end then, Stephanie. Any thoughts on last session? We talked, and we talked a lot about it in the leadership meetings that we had in the interim too, about, the idea that you have these measurable sales activities that will move the needle. How many of you are adopting that? How many of you are considering adopting that? And just drop a 1 in the chat if you want to spend a little bit of time, talking to me about that for the clarity. I'm happy to do that. And if there's enough people, then maybe we'll just schedule a group session and we'll talk about it. Nobody has any thoughts? All right. Andrew wants to talk. Good stuff. Note to self, reach out to Andrew.
So Jeff, I actually have a spreadsheet that I've been putting together since we've started this, which have got my, quotes, my meetings, the whole thing, and I'm adding a line to the format that's going to give me where I can put the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4.
Cool.
So over this past week, I've gained points since last. So
Awesome.
Just FYI.
Cool. What was your baseline?
Well, it's just I've just started measuring how many contacts I have with my accounts,
Right.
whether it be. Go ahead.
No.
Just going based on what we talked about last week. It's good to measure. It's a feel good. It's not. It's definitely a positive. So I've taken a lot of notes and implemented a lot of the direction. So thank you for that.
Awesome. No, you're welcome. And I look forward to connecting with you on this because I want to see how you're doing it. Quite frankly, I've got a couple of very crude ways that I measure these things. I mentioned that and I put it out on the video that I'm hoping you all saw, or at least know where to find it if you want to see it. And one of the things that I'm kind of kicking myself about, and it's one of those things I haven't gotten around to doing because not every one of my clients takes this up. But I haven't put it together in a very elegant way yet. And that feels like a puzzle I should probably sit down and do. I'm curious to see how you're taking a look at it, because I just had my own shorthand stuff that I kept and it worked for me. But it's interesting when you have to try to show this to other people and then you get to, see behind the curtain and realize it's just a bunch of, I don't know, my own way of keeping records. It's not, again, the most elegant way of doing it. But thanks for adopting that. And I'm looking forward to, I'll send you an email after this session and we'll find a time to spend some time talking. So going into today, what are we talking about today? What I want to discuss today is how we start conversations that create opportunities. Drop a 1 in the chat if you want to grow in 2026. Drop a 2 in the chat if you don't think you need to, and your growth is going to be handled on its own. Ken Yeager wants to grow. Shocking. Gracie, Christopher, Brett, I hope you're feeling better. Steve wants to grow. Sheila wants to grow. Good. I'm seeing a lot of ones. Excellent. Okay. It's really hard to grow without intentionally spending time growing. And what I wanted to do today, because just by research, my experience working with veteran sales teams, when you throw around the term prospecting, it makes people kind of shiver, or it makes people turn off the camera, or it makes people just stop paying attention. And so I don't talk about prospecting with groups like this. But what I do is talk to groups like you guys about how you're going to create opportunities. And because the thing is, most people turn the camera off when they see prospecting because they feel like that means cold calling. They feel like that means putting yourself in front of strangers. And quite frankly, a lot of you have plenty of existing relationships with your current customers and plenty of opportunity to grow with those existing customers. And my approach has always been one where I don't care where your growth comes from, but if you're not starting new conversations about new line extensions, about new opportunities within those accounts, then you're waiting for growth to happen on its own. And the thing is, sometimes growth happens on its own. I have been in those situations, both in the field as a rep and as a consultant and a trainer, where, you know what, my business has grown because a bunch of referrals came in that year. It's really hard to do that 2 years in a row. And what I also know is that my kids like to eat every day, not just some of the days. So what's been incumbent upon me has been the idea that I need to put together an engine where I am consistently working on the right things. And so when we refer back to that point system, creating new opportunities is a part of that point system. Introducing yourself to new people is a part of that system. But it's really heavily weighed toward wherever you can get those opportunities, right? So the system, that tool that we were just talking about, it doesn't demand that you do anything in any certain way. That's what I like about it. Now, we can all sit here and agree that at some point we're going to need to put ourselves in front of somebody new, because there's only so much business you can get out of a certain book of business or a certain territory. However, I'm not prejudiced against any kind of business, because I think all those dollars spend the same. And I also think, speaking of dollars, that it is less expensive to create new opportunities with existing customers than it is to create new ones. So what I want to talk about today are the universal laws, essentially, of opportunity creation. I don't care where they come from. It can be a complete stranger. It can be someone you've done business with. But we've built the foundation here in our previous sessions about knowing ourselves, about knowing our best customers, and about knowing our process. And so now we're going to get into the methods, which is step 4 of the 7 steps to sell like you. And how do we take all the things that we've learned, how do we build on all that and create opportunities? So let's think about what this means. There are 3 things we're going to cover today. Who needs to hear from you? What's the kind of messaging that will get their attention? And what are the best ways to put yourself in front of these people? None of this is prescriptive. I'm not coming in today telling you that you need to make 50 calls a day. I'm not coming in today to say you need to send 100 emails every day. I'm not telling you that you need to pound the pavement and knock on every restaurant door that's out there. That's not what this is about. But there's going to be some interactive aspects of today's discussion. There is a group activity later on today where I want what's working. And I want to know what's worked for you. And maybe in some cases, what have you been just a little too nervous to try? But let's start at the bottom here, right? Or at the very basic level. Who needs to hear from you? Let's go back to what our best customers look like. Who are those people in your territory that you need to put yourself in front of? If you remember, a couple couple of sessions ago, we had that matrix, that 2x2, where I talked about who's growable and who's accessible, and where they fall in that quadrant or in among those quadrants. That is the tool you use to reference for this very question. Who needs to hear from me? Who do I know can spend more money with me? How much access do I have to them? Right? So segment your accounts. You're going to see this come up later, but take a few minutes, not right now, but take a few minutes, maybe this afternoon, maybe next week because it's short because of the holiday. Maybe take half an hour next Friday morning if you're not shopping and just think about this a little bit. But you've basically got 4 different kinds of accounts. You've got your gold accounts, right? These are the ones that are real partners for you. And not just in the way that you talk about partnership, but in the way that that they're riding for you. They want to help you. How are you going to grow with them? It's probably a little different than how you're going to grow with somebody who's brand new, but is in your sweet spot, right? So we have gold accounts, we have brand new customers, we have those win backs, right? Who used to be good with you, but you lost their business for some reason. Maybe that was a reason that's totally out of your control. Maybe that reason was a little more in your control than you care to admit. And you really have to go back and put together something valuable for them to re-engage with you. And then are there other companies or other customers, partners in your book of business where you just know that there's more you can do with them, right? These maybe could be gold medal accounts, but they're not there yet. This is where I would go before I just started knocking on random doors, right? And in 3 of these 4 situations, these people pretty well, which makes the really hard part, the really uncomfortable part, the mystery part, takes that out of the equation. And that's where most salespeople go awry. It's just like, oh man, I got to call on strangers. I don't want to. Feel like a fish out of water. Feels cringy. Feels like I don't want to. So they don't. Well, if we just remove the uncomfortable part and we just look at the people well, where could I do more with them? This goes hand in hand with that exercise, that growable and accessible exercise I gave you before. Spend a little more time there. Revisit that. And then based on where they fall on that, in those quadrants, you also know how to prioritize where they have to go. So know who you should be talking to. Any questions on how to do that before I move forward? Because I want to talk about messaging. Got a fair amount of time to spend on messaging today, but everybody feel like they know who to call on? Drop a 1 if you feel like you know exactly who you need to call on and you have a plan to do it. Drop a 2 if you're not so sure. Drop a 3 if you're totally lost. Ken Yeager with a 1. Excuse me, Ken, what makes you so sure?
I may have mentioned it last session. How attrition is a natural course of any salesperson's business.
Mm-hmm.
So it is fairly easy to get the photo Rolodex out, if you will. Who knows what a Rolodex is, right? And I know, but that's my thought on it. It's revisiting the old ones that kind of went by the wayside for whatever reason. I mean, I was just talking about that literally yesterday with a small sub chain I got that's what I call growing backwards, and they get all these big new hires in from where they were coming from, the big boys, and thinking they're going to light the world on fire, and then you lose the business because of that, because they have to make a splash in the pan. So you just kind of watch that, and then when you see the right time, you go back in and say, hey, Ken Yeager's still here to service your needs. And for some reason, I still feel like I'm the best company and best person to do that. So that's my thoughts, Jeff.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing
You bet.
that. I remember you saying that it was 2 sessions ago. Well, it was our last session with this group. And And you mentioned that attrition is just something that's going to happen. And I remember you mentioning a specific company where this was a great customer of mine until they got purchased by another company who's just doing business with another rep. It's like I can't steal it back.
That was my ginger suit. So
yeah,
that's right. Yeah. So there's many on that list, Jeff. There's many on that list. So if they're still in business,
you do this long enough, and stuff like that's going to happen.
Right.
And I think we will come back to this closer to the end of this engagement, because I'm going to wrap this with a mindset discussion. And, on a long enough timeline, again, you're going to run into heartbreak. You're going to be elated in this business. You're going to close the biggest deal of your life a bunch of times over the course of your career. They're going to keep getting bigger. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're going to be taken from you through no fault of your own. And there's nothing more frustrating than that. I had my company actually coughed up probably my third biggest customer. This was, when I was still in the field as a rep. They made, literally, it was an operational issue inside the plant. The FDA took issue with it, publicized the fact that they took an issue with it. And customers said, well, if the FDA's got a problem with you, so do we. We love you, Jeff, but we can't do business with you anymore. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I learned a lot at that point in time. So, it's one of those things through the arc of your career. That thing that you didn't even think was possible is absolutely possible. So we'll talk more about that when we get into mindset. But I think, one of the first lessons I learned, I think it was my first day in sales. My manager picked me up and we went and we rode that day. And he said, Jeff, you need to start every day with a plan and a sense of urgency. And what I've learned working with a lot of companies is that there's a sense of urgency, but there's not usually a plan. So when we talk about who do we need to put ourselves in front of every day, do you know? And that clarity unlocks so many things. So thanks for sharing, Ken. Let's talk about messaging here. I want to tell a little story. This is Rob. This is actually an AI version of a real person to protect the guilty, whose name is actually Rob. But I won't say his last name because that wouldn't be fair to Rob. My wife actually had the dad joke pun of the year yesterday when I told her about this. She said, you mean, is that Rob Ott? Because it's a computer generated version. And I said, I love you, sweetheart. Thank you. No one is going to appreciate that joke more than me, but I'm telling it here today anyway. What I love about this image is that it's actually a fairly decent, representation of Rob, but it actually nailed the extra long twin beds that we had in our dorm. And I don't know how that happened, but it's the only place I've ever seen mattresses that long and that narrow. But Rob he was one of my roommates, and I've got a group of roommates that we still get together. There's 7, 8 of us. We still get together at least once, twice a year. And I say that because Rob's not in the group chat. Rob didn't make the cut. Rob's doing great, but Rob has a reputation within that group of us as being the guy who would come into the room and say, hey, you guys got anything I can have? And I don't say that ironically. I say that as not the guy that came in and said, hey, you know what? Payday's in a couple of days and I'm a little short. Can I have one of your ramen packages for dinner tonight? I'll get you back with 2, right? Or, hey, do you mind if I bum a beer? Like, I get paid in a couple of days, whatever it is. No, Rob just came in and, to his credit, was willing to put himself out there like a lot of salespeople do, but just came in and said, hey, you guys got anything I can have? Never reciprocating. So let me just say, Rob was never a guy you could count on to have anything if you needed it, but he would come in and he would ask. And unfortunately, this is what most salespeople sound like in their outreach, in their communication. It's usually some combination, thematically speaking, of, I hope you're doing very well. Are you doing well enough to give me some of it? And I don't think that's intentional, but when I read the emails, when I read or when I see transcripts or hear recordings of calls, it usually amounts to that. So my urge to you, or what I'm urging you to do, is not sound like Rob, because nobody cares what you have to sell. They know you sell a lot of things. Your best customers, your partners, they know they can come to you for just about anything that they need. So they're really not thinking about the individual things that they can buy from you. What they are thinking about are the priorities they have in their business. And we talked about this, I think it was the second or the third session, knowing your best customers. What is it that they wake up every morning thinking about? In our messaging, whenever we want to start a new conversation, again, whether it is with a complete stranger or someone we've been working with for years, if we want to start a brand new conversation, we need to meet that person where they are.
Can we take the 4 bar things it says I have down there?
I hope so. That's what
I don't see any here.
I think when we were doing it.
So I got you, Ken. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So when we think about who we're reaching out to, what is going to start that conversation? Maybe you'll ask them about their small wares. Maybe you'll ask them about the upcoming, kitchen renovation project. Whatever it is, you may have a good idea of what they're already thinking about. But just in almost every case I've ever had, myself or with clients, they're not thinking about that thing I sell. They're thinking about something bigger. And so I've kind of put that together in a conversation flow here. And this is what I have built a career on. It's the idea that the conversation starts much earlier than the sales conversation. Most sales reps, again, start out with, hey, I hope you're doing great. We've got this really great thing. Do you want to buy it? Do you want to talk about it? Most people are going to say no because their mind is occupied somewhere else. They woke up that morning thinking about something they're working on in their business. So what we do is we start with a conversation about what the problems are that are getting in the way of their priorities. I wake up every day thinking about how to grow my business. And there are certain hurdles, certain obstacles that get in the way of me growing my business. Every company's like this. Every restaurant's like this. What are those obstacles that are most likely to start a conversation? That's where you start. Start a conversation about a problem you believe that they might be having, or a hurdle you feel like they may need to get over. And you, as the resource, you as the trusted advisor, you as the partner that they've been counting on for years, you've earned the right to have that conversation. You are someone worth talking to, and you've got something worth talking about. Once you have a conversation about that problem that they're facing, that is going to lead to a conversation about some of the solutions that might be, some of the potential solutions they might have. So here we are, we're talking about an obstacle. Hey, how might we fix that? Well, you could try this, you could try this, you could try this. And if you have the right conversation about the problem that they're facing, you have a good conversation about the solutions that might help them, that naturally leads to a sales conversation. Now, I break it down this way because it's important to break it into its component parts. Sometimes this happens over 3 different sales calls. Sometimes this happens in 5 minutes. So don't get caught up in the idea that every one of these segments has to have its own discussion. I just want you to think of the natural flow of the conversation. Now, I had a client just recently say, I don't have time to start conversations. I have sales to make. And that guy clearly what I was trying to say. And when you look at the market, and you look at the dynamics, and you look at all the studies, and I've looked at these studies for years, they come back with similar percentages every time. 3% of your market is ready to buy right now. So out of 100 people that you talk to, 3 of them are ready to buy right now. 7 more are going to buy soon. So 10% of the market is like in a buying motion one way or another. An additional 30% of the market is problem aware but doesn't have a plan to solve it yet. So when you go in and you say, look, I've got something to sell you, are you ready to buy? You're only reaching 1 out of 10 people. But if you go in with, hey, a lot of restaurant owners like you are thinking about how to add another 10% per ticket Is this something you're thinking about right now, or is that, or do you think you have that all figured out? That becomes a conversation starter that opens the door for you. Drop a 1 in the chat if you understand where I'm coming from. Drop a 2 if you need me to explain it a little bit differently. Ron's with me. Someone had to break the seal. Ken's with me. Andrew's with me. Okay, I've seen enough 1s here to move forward. If you are a 2, hit me up, because I can break this down a little bit differently. We only have an hour. Rick really only have 30 minutes left today. So we want to start the conversation where they are likely to pick it up, not just take a shot with somebody who's not willing, who's probably not willing to buy right now. So what are the problems? What are the priorities? This is a slide I directly lifted from that third deck. If we're selling into healthcare and senior living, their priority is how does this help them serve enjoyable meals while staying in compliance, right? They need resident satisfaction. They also have compliance issues. That is always, always, always on their mind. If you can meet them somewhere there, you are likely to start a conversation. Chain restaurants, right? Hey, how do we stay consistent with the brand, but we still need to grow? Independent restaurants, how do we come up with something totally unique and grow? How can we increase guest satisfaction? I love those big chains because you can talk to corporate folks and you can make a big splash. Enterprise selling is fun. Big wins, big contracts are fun. The thing with the independent restaurants, you can get really creative. And I think that's why we like going there. That's why we like eating there. And I think that's why they're fun to sell to. So meet them where they are. Use their own exuberance, their own passion. I'll tell you what, with all the travel restrictions, there's a bunch of them who are a little light in their ledgers right now. And those weren't even, those were only temporary restrictions, but a lot of those flights didn't get rebooked. Plans were canceled. That's a bummer. They're open to all kinds of conversations now about how to get that per guest number up because they have fewer guests. So the best practices here, talk about those priorities, right? But one of the things that works really well, and I just gave an example of one a few minutes ago, was don't dive right in with a question that's really hard to answer. Interest-based CTAs or calls to action convert much better. They start those conversations much better. And here's why I'm highlighting this. I was brought up, as many of you were in a sales time or in our sales careers, I was brought up to ask open-ended questions. Ask a question that doesn't have a yes or a no answer. We want to get the conversation started. We don't want to hear a no. We don't want to hear a yes with no context. Those rules are still true, except with one big asterisk. And this is the thing, I learned this within the last year, and it opened up a new world for me because I'd been teaching that with some limited success. But I'm working with a friend of mine, his name is Jason Bay, and if you're on LinkedIn, there is nobody better at top of funnel conversation starting than Jason Bay is. The outbound, he's got a company called Outbound Squad that does amazing work and puts out a ton of great content out there for free. But you can't ask a question that is so hard to answer that it's easier to just ignore. So let me say that again. A cold intro with a question that's too hard to answer is more likely to get ignored than to give you any kind of response, let alone an elaborate one. So that first yes or no answer offers them an opportunity to opt out, which is information for you that's valuable, but it also offers them an opportunity to opt in, which means you can have that discussion. So I go back to that example I just gave. Hey, a lot of restaurants right now are trying to figure out how to increase their per ticket or per guest tickets by 10%. Is that something you are worried about or concerned about or thinking about or focusing on, or insert your fill in the blank, question here. Give them the opportunity to say yes. Now you can ask the question you really wanted to ask. We're respecting the customer. We're giving them an opportunity to opt out. but more importantly, we're giving them the opportunity to opt in. This works on the phone. This works through email. This works through social media. This works in person. This works through smoke signal, carrier pigeon, skywriter. I don't care how you do it. We want to let them opt into the conversation. It's a big deal. I would go as far as saying that your best partners are not going to have a problem with this. But what you'll find is it does get the momentum rolling in the discussion, which is super valuable. So, more examples. I work with healthcare systems, the healthcare systems I work with, like Baycare. Drop a little name there, a little bit of social proof, streamlining equipment standardization across facilities. Is that something you're focused on at the moment? Then ask them, how are you currently handling equipment specs for new locations? If you jump right in with that second question, it's more likely to be ignored than answered specifically. Give them the opportunity to opt in. The chains we work with, like Firehouse Subs, are sometimes challenged by brand consistency when they're growing so quickly. Is this ever a consideration for you? Is this ever a spelling mistake, typo consideration for you? I'm going to fix that. How are you ensuring your kitchen setups support the same menu execution across all your locations? The second question in these, examples are the ones you really want to know the answers to. Those are the questions that make your prospect think, you make them stop, they consider new information. They show them that you are someone worth talking to, because who else would ask a question like that? But, hold their hand before you ask for it in marriage, right? Like, let's move along. Let's enter in a place where they're comfortable entering the discussion and then move forward. Questions, comments, ideas, suggestions, thoughts before I move forward into the group activity. Brett, I'm looking at you. And Brett's looking for his mute button.
There we go. What are you looking for?
Does this land, or am I missing it?
No, I think it's landing with the group.
Well, it's like for you. I mean, like, am I saying something that's too contrarian to what you're used to doing?
No, not at all. I think, we all understand the importance of relationship, but I think what we prioritize, in some cases, this is not everybody, but I think we can prioritize the people we get along with best over potential business. Mm-hmm. So over some that's got more. So I'm not saying everybody. I think a lot of us do a really good job of that in understanding what the priorities are. But no, I think where you're going. I'm interested to see the group sessions and see the interaction there. But yeah, I think we're grasping what you're saying here.
Cool. So the group activity, so what I wanted to do initially was put everybody into breakouts. But that doesn't work because it's just an IT thing that I'm not a part of your internal team. So I don't have host privileges, which means that I can't start breakouts. So we're going to do this as one big group because there's 25 of us or so on the call. That's not too big of a group to do this. So here's what I'm looking for. I'm going to call on a few of you, unless there's some volunteers. But what's your favorite way to open a conversation about a new opportunity? And let's start with, you've got an existing partner. Got an existing partner, but you want to grow with them and you believe that you can grow with them. How do you start that conversation? So what's working for you to create new opportunities? Doug, you've been front and center on my screen this entire time. I'm going to look at you first.
Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning.
I normally, when I speak to an existing customer, my first thing to them is I ask them how they're doing, and then I ask them, how can I help you? And normally they're calling me because something is not working, or they need a piece of equipment or small wares, and they always need it like yesterday. So, and my goal is to fulfill what they need as soon as possible. And that's why I think they continue to reach out to us, because we respond, and 99% of the time we have availability and we get it to them the same day or the next day.
Are you ever proactively calling those partners, or do they always call
Yes.
you first? Okay, so
I
when you
reach out to the
proactively call
customers.
them, Mhm.
I reach out to the customers after the sale. During the week, I always reach out to customers before the weekend to see if they need anything, because most of the customers wait till Friday to order anything because they don't need it until the weekend. So
do you ever proactively call a customer with a suggestion? And what I mean by that is, look at your, you know, your history with this customer. Say, you know what, they haven't
Yes.
bought this in a long time.
yes,
So you want to sell them something they're not already buying. What does that
I'll go
sound
into
like?
I'll go into a customer's kitchen and I'll see a piece of equipment that in pretty bad shape, and I'll ask him, or ask the customer, what's going on here? And they said, oh, well, it stopped working a few days ago. What do you suggest? And I said, well, you bought it from me 9 years ago. It looks like it's been through World War III. I think it's time to replace it. And they said, Doug, send me a quote. How fast can you get it? That's the relationship building.
I'm chuckling because the idea that you can just walk into a restaurant kitchen and be like, what's going on here? It's like,
well, when you have those relationship with customers for 20, 30 years, they tend to let you pretty much, they almost treat you like family.
They do. They do. So you also said something else just a minute ago. And you said, I asked him if there's anything I can help him with. That is a perfect example of a question that only gets answered part of the time. Because the reality of the situation is there are a bunch of things that you can help these people with that they will not mention because they can't put their thoughts together in a straight, an orderly fashion, and they have a million things floating around. And so one of the best things to do is actually proactively make a solution or make a suggestion, not a solution rather. Right.
Right.
And so, and Doug, with 20, 30 years, relationship experience, they have a pretty good idea of what you can help them with. So it's easier for them to formulate those things because, they're thinking of all the things that you've helped them with in the past. It becomes a little bit easier. But if I'm thinking about Adam, who's new on the phone, if I'm thinking about anybody else who has not been doing this long enough, that Doug, quite frankly, doesn't have the same number of gray hairs you and I have, on our heads, it's a different proposition. And when you don't have that relationship, Ken, I see you. I'll come to you in a second. Thank you. When you don't have that relationship to build on, the power of suggestion is magical. And some of the stats that I'm reading is that the outreach, whether it's an email, whether it's a phone call, voicemail, whatever, 29% increase in response rate when you actually make an offer versus when you just say, hey, how can I help you? So think about that. Particularly if you haven't had the privilege of having a 30-year relationship like Doug has with some of his people. And that is, quite frankly, what builds a relationship that lasts 30 years. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Ken?
I thought I'd mention the threes that even when my business has morphed into a different stage in my career, but I know back when I was in the route sales that usually the first or second customer would give me the ideas for the rest of the day because I'd always think of things in threes. Things happen in threes, so I'd always, literally, if I sold glass racks at the second stop, then every stop after that would be getting the glass racks made. Okay, that's how I used to do it as a route salesman. So, and then the other thing too is the ask the help. Obviously, I think we all do that too when we walk in the front door, back door, any door. We ask the help, whether it's the front of the house waitress, wait staff, excuse me, or the back of the house, the bus person.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's just what I do or used to do, and I find myself doing that even on the phone is just bringing up something else that I'd either product knowledge, bringing it up to many customers until you get a bite, I guess, if you will. So that's me.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And I love that, kind of that it comes in threes kind of thing, where it's like, oh, glass racks came up. I'm going to ask about glass racks till I get 2 more glass rack sales. Awesome. Right. The other way that you could do this, actually, Brett and any of the other leaders that are here, we haven't talked to you about this. I imagine you put stuff on promotion from time to time. Those promotional items become the thing where it's like, okay, I need to recommend Libby Glass this week at least 3 times every day because they're spiffing us on closeout stuff or whatever it is, right? And it's a great way to keep stuff top of mind and always have something new to talk about. One of the things that gets in our way, and I see you, Andrew, I'll be there in a minute. One of the things that gets in our way is for our customers and for us, you have a catalog with SKUs in the tens of thousands. There is always something to talk about. Sometimes that question, again, is so big. You have so many things to offer. I don't even know where to start. It's easier for me to just say nothing and get back to that thing I'm working on. But if you can be specific about what you want to talk about, be specific of who you want to have that conversation with, it becomes so much easier to start these conversations. And this is where the seller part comes out, where it's like, what do you want to sell them today? I did my homework. I know this is a person that loves to talk to me. I know this is a person I can help. I walked through the kitchen 2 weeks ago. I saw that cooler was on its last legs. Who wants to sell coolers today? And oh, by the way, if I'm going to sell one, I might as well sell 3. So who else am I calling that might need a cooler? Now we're starting to gamify what we do. It's starting to be really fun when you win. And even when you lose, when you only sell 2 instead of 3, you're like, I'll get them next time. And you're ready to hit the ground running the next day instead of, well, like one of the things I think is underappreciated about a sales career is like the things you need to do to keep yourself going and interested. Because when you sell a lot of things, it becomes very difficult. It becomes, despite the amount that you sell so many different things, it's remarkably easy to get bored doing it. Andrew?
So my biggest thing is paying attention to what my customer says when he doesn't even know he's saying it. And when I'm out in the field, when I'm out at a show, when I'm out, like yesterday, we had a sales meeting. I'm thinking about all of my customers because when this one thing pops up, I'm like, hey, DoubleTree Universal needs that because we talked about it 2 weeks ago or a month ago or 6 months ago, or the oven that the pizza oven that we're selling to Cape Canaveral Holiday and Club Vacation. A pizza oven came by. It's called a Hot Rocks, and I was like, hey, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. We got the hood space, the whole thing. So when you're out in the world, you're never, although you're not selling to someone, you're still selling in your mind. You're like, okay, this can be an answer for this particular challenge that my customer is having. So that's what I really enjoy about what I do. Just being out on my own, walking by something, saying, you know what? I bet you someone's going to like that. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. So we talked about who we should be in front of. Talked a little bit about messaging. I think that's landing. I feel like you understand where I'm going here. Again, let's start conversations that lead to sales conversations instead of diving right in like Rob and saying, hey, you guys got anything I can have? I know you don't mean that, but your customers feel that more often than they realize, or more often than you realize. So what's the best way to get in front of them? I'm not going to tell you to call. I'm not going to tell you to email. I will tell you that both of those things work. Most of you, at least in your outside field reps, you're knocking on doors. You're on foot. You're showing up, standing in front of people. You're really hard to ignore when you do that. It's one of the things I loved about doing that. If you're an inside rep, the phone works, email works. I would encourage you to use both at the same time. And we can talk about that at a later date if there's interest in talking about that, because there's a really strong way to correlate both of those channels to use them with one another. I would also suggest what is not a shock to most of you, text works really well. Social media is another way to do it. LinkedIn's really good for this. Be careful with Facebook, unless they're actually friends of yours. Some of those other ways that a lot of people really like keeping business and personal. But there are channels to reach people. And yes, I have carrier pigeon on here. because sometimes it just pays to be creative. And sometimes if an opportunity is worth it, it's worth spending a little money and a little bit of brain power to get creative. I remember early in my career, I sold to orthopedic surgeons, and we had a hard time with orthopedic surgeons, but we had an event that we were trying to really promote and get some people locally into this event. And I remember my manager saying, okay, here's the invitation. Here are 10 invitations. I want you to go to FedEx. I want you to put each one of these invitations in an envelope and send it overnight. I'm like, Craig, his office is right there. Why wouldn't I just drop it off? He said, okay, good. How many things you dropped off at his office so far? I don't know, dozens. Okay, how's it working for you? How many times have you talked to him? Oh, good call. But all of a sudden, that FedEx envelope is on their desk, and it's been stamped and metered and, you know, whatever. Like it cost $20 to put it on his desk. Yeah, FedEx overnight stuff gets opened. Is this opportunity worth $20? Uh-huh. So put it on the desk in front of them. Right? Things like that. And that's why, you know, carrier pigeon is a bit facetious. But when you think outside the box, good things happen. So if you're struggling to get in front of somebody, sometimes being creative really opens those doors for you. But again, do what you're good at. Practice the things you'd like to be better at. But let's think pragmatically about the different ways that we can reach people, because sometimes the way you've always done it is not the way that works anymore. So consider that. Best practices. Do a little bit of research before you reach out. If you're like Doug and you've known people for 30 years, there's probably no additional research you need. You've got all that context built up and stored inside your brain. That's important. But if it's a new person, look at their website. Look at the Google reviews. What are other people saying about them? Do you have any personal relationships or connections to them? Can you have somebody introduce you? Way better than walking in and trying to introduce yourself to a stranger. Know when is a good time to call. You all know this, but like, you know, 10 o'clock in the morning when everybody's at the restaurant, but no one's actually in the restaurant as a guest because they're not open till lunch, right? That's a pretty decent time to call on people. Certainly better than the mid-dinner rush, right? So it's a little bit of this is read the room. Actually, a lot of bit of this is to read the room, but also just knowing when you have to structure your day. Most of the veterans understand this. Some of the rookies are a little bit, they still need to find this. So think about it. Here's a big one for me. Number 3 is to be brief, but don't apologize for the call. Never, ever, ever apologize for being in sales. I don't know how many times I have seen reps, seen clients, seen colleagues. Hey, sorry to bother you, but no, you're not. You shouldn't be. Never be sorry to bother them. If you're sorry to bother them, it means you don't believe that you can really help them. It's one thing to say, hey, I know I caught you in the middle of something. Is now a good time to talk? That's one thing. The other thing, hey, sorry to bother you. Start on the wrong foot. Don't do it. Never be sorry for being in sales. You did this on purpose. Another pet peeve of mine is, yeah, I'm not trying to sell you something. Oh, you damn well are. You'd better be. It's one thing to say, hey, this isn't a pitch right now. I just want to chat with you. I want to get your honest opinion on this. I'd like to get your unbiased opinion on this. Cool. That's one thing. But you're absolutely trying to sell them something. Don't tell them you're not. Because then what happens when you actually do want to sell something, right? And I think the biggest thing on this list, if you're trying to get a hold of somebody new, it will take at least 10 attempts to get their attention. Most sales reps give up after 3. If they make it to 3. Something like 92% of sales reps give up after 3. If you're giving up after 3 and you know it takes 10, why even start? You're really begging to get lucky here. So again, take a step back. Think a little more strategically. It's worth a couple hours on a Friday afternoon to say, what does my business plan look like for next month? What do my activities need to look like for next week? Where are my 25 points going to come from? Where might those points be spent most valuably? What can I do to grow? What is the message that will resonate with them enough that they will want to take my call or schedule a meeting with me? I'm going to say this with my hand up because I've been here before. It's really easy to fall into a pattern. Routines become ruts, become canyons that are hard to get yourself out of. So give yourself that permission to stop and think about what is going to be the best use of my time over the next period of days to maximize the output that you get. And speaking of planning, when are you going to do all this? All of this tactical talk is great. But if you don't actually have time blocked to do this, it doesn't happen. My friend Mike Weinberg likes to say two things. I quote him for a lot of things, but these two stick with me the most. One, nobody defaults to prospecting mode. When that meeting at 2 p.m. cancels, you're not thinking how much cold outreach can I do, or who can I stop by and see that I haven't seen in a long time. You're thinking, whoo, all right, cool. Now I can get to some of that paperwork. Maybe I can get done early. Nobody defaults to prospecting mode because it's not fun. You have to make the time to think about the conversations about the opportunities that you want to create. The other thing he likes to say is, if you looked at your calendar right now, would it be used or could it be used against you as evidence in court that you're in sales? Do you have sales activities planned out, blocked on your calendar, or whatever tool you use to make sure that you're getting your work done every week? Do you have that time blocked out? Or is there just a bunch of white space and sales calls from 9 to 4? What you do, and there's this thing, I've actually been talking to my daughter about this because she's 16 and she needs to learn about this, but Parkinson's law states that a task will take as long as you allow it to take. So when you have a bunch of white space, you say, I need to get these things done, it is amazing that it'll take exactly that long to get those things done, if they get completed at all. But when you box those tasks into specific appointments, whether it's on your calendar or some other, software that you're using, it's amazing how much you get done because you said you were going to get done by a certain time. So before we break, I've got two things for you. One, here's your homework. Build your list. I know we went through and we did the growable, accessible thing a few weeks ago. Now that we're talking about opportunity creation, I want you to sit down. I want you to think about the opportunities that are there that you just need to go and get. I want you to think about the accounts that you need to call on. I want you to think about the messaging that will get their attention. And I want you to put together a plan for yourself. That's my challenge to you. The other fun challenge is a contest. The wildest way you ever got a first meeting, and I'm going to qualify this, the wildest way you ever got a first meeting, stranger. I gave this to the other group, and the winning submission for that group was wild. And I'm going to share it with everybody in the next, probably not next week's newsletter, but the newsletter after. So I want to hear your submissions. And what I mean by wild, I had a client who actually did this on the regular. He would go and buy a pair or several pairs of Converse All-Stars, right? Go buy a bunch of pair of shoes that were his size. And he would take one of the shoes, put it in a box, send it to a client that he couldn't get a hold of, or a prospect he couldn't get a hold of, with a note in it that said, just trying to get my foot in. Hope this works. A little cheesy, I know. Worked more often than you would think. And very much, considering what he sold, very much worth the cost of a pair of shoes, which meant you could do it twice, and the postage even right across town to put it in front of somebody's desk. So I want the most creative, wildest thing that you've ever done to get a first meeting with somebody. And then the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is to have an unbelievable Thanksgiving. Lots to be grateful for. And I'm grateful for you all. And thanks again for your attention and your participation today. Andrew, I'm going to send you an email. Let's find some time to connect, maybe even next week if it's light for you. And let's talk about how you're using the point system. And if anybody else needs anything from me, you know how to get a hold of me. Cheers. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great session
Thank you,
today.
everybody.
Everybody have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Happy Thanksgiving all.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.